Hey again, it's the Belly here. We're on part 4 of my 4-part shooting fundamentals. We've previously talked about breathing, aim and alignment, and trigger manipulation. Our last fundamental to talk about is sight picture. Now the sight picture really deals with a scoped rifle or something with some sort of magnified optic. And most high quality scopes or optics are going to have 4 different types of adjustments to be made. The first one's called the diopter adjustment, and that's nothing more than a reticle focus. You're going to find this closest to the eyepiece, and it's also called the ocular lens, and it's mostly used as a reticle focus. So if your reticle is blurry, you make an adjustment on that one, close your eyes for a couple seconds, focus off into the bright sunset, and then close your eyes or open your eyes again and look through your scope. Your brain will manipulate and make things that are not fuzzy clear again. So if you young shooters, this is particularly important that you get your diopter adjustment set correctly. The second part is called parallax, and what we're trying to do is reduce or remove the amount of focal plane distortion between what we see in our scope and what we are seeing downrange. How it manifests itself is if you get in your position and you give your head a little wiggle left and right, up and down, you'll see that crosshair move on your target. Parallax is also called the side focus, and the easy way to tell is if your reticle stops moving when you and again you give your head about a half an inch of wiggle while looking through your scope, and you'll see your crosshairs move from your aiming point to plus or minus a half mil or a mil, and they should not move at all. A lot of people call it a target focus or a side focus. It's really a parallax adjustment to bring your reticle and your target as close to the same focal plane as you can. The third one is magnification. Some people have a fixed magnification scope, a 10x, a 12x. A company called SWFA has their Super Sniper line of 16x, 20x, etc. If you have an adjustable magnification, you can see that in there. That adjustable magnification is really what induces a lot of parallax. A common sight is if you have a fixed magnification scope, it will not have a parallax adjustment. Please refer to your owner's manual for anything on that. Number 4 is the turrets. Now, I write elevation only on here, and I'll explain why. When you get your rifle zeroed, you do so by adjusting the turrets. Make a note of where they are. A lot of turrets these days have a resettable zero or a zero stop or something like that. So you can always get your turrets back to where your rifle is zeroed at your particular distance. I have here written elevation only is because when I get ready to take a shot, for me, 400 yards on my 308, on my LaRue 308, 400 yards is 2 mils, 2 mil radians, period. So I take my scope, I crank it, this way, I crank it up 2 mils, I can squeeze one off, and that means I know my horizontal stadia, or my horizontal cross part of the reticle in that part, is center mass. Now when I say elevation only, is I hold for wind, I don't dial for wind. The reason being is elevation is generally pretty stable. The wind changes between 6 miles an hour and 10 miles an hour. Well, say you adjust your windage for 6 miles an hour, and because that's somewhere in between your 4 or your 5 to 10 mile an hour, or whatever it may be, 2 to 10 mile an hour winds, well, what if all of a sudden the wind drops off? Where do you hold from there? I set my windage, then I don't touch it. I actually use electrical tape and I'll wrap it around there so I don't have to deal with my windage coming undone. I only have to deal with my turret, my elevation. That allows me to use the subtensions in my reticle for wind. So I know for my 308 that at about a 10 mile an hour wind, at 400 yards, I'm going to hold between 0.3 and 0.5 mils into the wind. So if the wind is blowing from this direction, I hold my reticle crosshairs over to that side, so as I shoot, what'll happen is I'm shooting this way, but the wind curves it back into the target. Again, I hold into the wind, and like that. So those are the 4 parts of my sight picture that I use that I adjust. The key thing here is when I do my dry fire, if all these other fundamentals are in order and I dry fire that rifle, that reticle does not move. If I click that hammer down and that thing wiggles, something wasn't right. I did not compensate for something, or I did something wrong. Most of the time, for me, it'll be my breathing or my trigger manipulation. I didn't move my trigger directly straight to the rear, or I didn't squeeze the trigger at the natural exhale at the end of the exhale. No matter what, after every firing solution, reset everything. Reset your turrets back to your 0. Reset your magnification to the lowest magnification. Reset your parallax to the nearest parallax. And your diopter, normally don't even touch that after it's been set, but if you need to reset that, do it. Reset, 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 so that when you go, like say you take a 400-yard shot and you're good, and then you pack your rifle up, you go back, you're sitting there wondering why your rifle won't work. Well, the reason is you didn't reset it, and then once you figure that out, you kind of reset it back down to where it should be, and all is well. I'm speaking from personal experience on that. In a competition environment, I did not execute a post-shot checklist, and I did not reset it, and I ended up losing a competition because of that. Again, sight picture, those 4, and reset afterwards.